Come on!
We are not the bad guys!
Yeah! That was legitness.
Yeah, it was, huh?
In Venom: The Last Dance, Eddie Brock and Venom are hiding out in Mexico as fugitives until Eddie realizes that there's some judge in New York that can maybe clear their wanted level or something. But when their plane ride goes less than smoothly, they end up in Vegas, somehow. Which is convenient because everything is going down in Vegas. The convenience store lady is there, other symbiotes are there, the only way to kill the alien monsters is there. Pretty much everything and everyone is there, except for the main villain, who's not really even in the movie.
You are a sore loser.
And to get to it right away, this movie is much like the ones before it. Well successful and with a lot of fun elements to enjoy. But at the same time, my argument against the predecessor still applies. More than anything else, Venom 3 seems to be a juvenile romp meant primarily for little kids. That's why Tom Hardy got rid of the first darker-leaning director and now hired his fun-loving writer friend to direct. That's why there's over-energetic craziness happening every few seconds.
That was legitness.
If you're over the age of 10, odds are that you will not deeply think about this movie long after the credits. There are moments of exception, of course, but overall, I'd argue that to be the case. And as I've said before, that's fine. Movies made for kids are fine. Believe it or not, my criticism of Venom 3 is not intended as a personal insult to you to unjustify your enjoyment of Venom 3. Once again, I love the DuckTales reboot on Disney+. It's for kids, and yet I still think it's easily one of the best shows on the service, and I was fully into it.
You're the richest duck in the world! Why didn't you send up more ships to look for her? So you're the reason our mom is gone. Cheap old Scrooge probably bailed as soon as it put a dent in his money bin.
The reason I'm making this video covering Venom 3 in this light is, once again, only to understand it. Why does it feel like it's made for kids? What makes it so? Once we understand the answers, we'll know how to avoid these problems in our own work if we want to. The information in this movie is delivered in such an insignificant way that it feels insignificant. A lot of events in this movie happen without natural purpose and thus feel artificially dumb. And most of the characters in this movie are so one-dimensional that they don't feel real enough to make you care. So to cap out the year 2024, let's see what makes Venom 3 so juvenile and how to avoid being the same. The first juvenile problem here is that things and information get introduced in such an insignificant way that it's hard to take them seriously. A great example of this is the beginning. Basically, we're in some dark plane of existence to learn intimidating stuff about the new lethal cosmic villain. And how do we learn that stuff? Does he fight the Hulk or something to showcase his lethality? Well,
I am Knull, god of the void, slicer of worlds. My symbiote children betrayed me when I escaped and annihilate every living planet and destroy.
That's right, the villain sits around and unpromptedly explains everything about himself to the audience as if he's his own personal hype man, which feels so tiny that his words and plans carry no weight. Even if he gets out, what's he gonna do then? Start explaining the next step of his plan. Maybe he's a great villain in the comics, but the way he's established here doesn't make it seem so. Unless, of course, your brain has not yet fully matured.
Annihilate every living planet and destroy my symbiote offspring.
And this is how most of the information in this movie is given birth to, in the least meaningful way possible. When we learn that Eddie is a fugitive hunted by the government, it happens through him seeing it on the news on TV. When we learn about Eddie's plan to go to New York, it happens through him seeing a statue and then saying that there's some judge in New York or something.
This judge got me kicked out of New York. Maybe we could blackmail him.
When we see Eddie and Venom rescue some fighting dogs, we should care just because they say they're fighting dogs. When we go to Area 51, everything just pops into existence. The radio explains what's going on.
Washington has finally announced the decommissioning of Area 51.
And then we walk into a laboratory like on a normal Tuesday to see that there's a bunch of symbiotes here. oh, okay. What I'm getting at is that things in this movie don't feel meaningful because they're not established with meaningful context. Eddie's plan to go to New York is so flimsy that we never really expect him or even root for him to get to New York. That whole judge destination doesn't seem to really matter. And so, in order to make your twists and turns matter, you need to create them within appropriate context. Maybe we learn that Eddie and Venom are hunted fugitives through them being ambushed by well-armed soldiers. Oh damn, I hope they don't get caught. Maybe we learn about the fighting dogs through Eddie and Venom walking in on them being forced to hurt each other for entertainment. Oh damn, I hope they rescue those dogs. Maybe we learn about the laboratory of symbiotes through one of them being caught while trying to escape or something. Oh damn, they're being held here as prisoners. The point is that information cannot be separate or isolated. Things feel significant only when they're introduced in significant circumstances. If you just give birth to information, at best it will be confusing, like how the army commander somehow found more symbiotes in a flashback and now there's more symbiotes, I guess. And at worst, the information will be annoying as hell, like with the codex stuff that gets repeated out loud again and again as if it makes any f***ing sense.
The codex has been created. Our separate life force will become one single force. It will unlock this prison. The codex.
Unless, of course, your audience is young enough to believe anything they're told. Then it works just fine.
It's a key that unlocks a gate.
Prisoner Clinton.
If you want to establish that Eddie and Venom have a codex that the aliens come for, don't do it by saying it. Establish it by having the aliens show up to try to rip it out of them. The idea itself may still be dumb, but at least it feels important. As a whole, think of your audience as a group of UFO hunters looking for evidence of alien existence. You don't just go tell them that aliens exist, because it's like, okay, whatever man. What you do is show them that existence in the most impactful way possible to make their day.
Aliens! Alien invasion!
If it doesn't happen with significance like so, they're not gonna be UFO hunters for much longer.
Aliens suck!
Another juvenile problem here is that a lot of events happen with no natural purpose to be happening in that way, which makes the movie feel written and thus predictable and shallow. For example, look at the dog scene again. Even though it plays a role in a larger sense, like how it brings the monster close and how it's like a metaphor for the imprisoned symbiotes, the scene itself does not need to be as it is. Eddie and Venom fight some cartel members, but the cartel has no relevance in the story. They rescue some dogs, but the dogs or the act of rescuing them has no relevance in the story. This could have been anything, and both the monster and the army would have still found them. Most of all, it feels like the writers wrote the scene primarily to showcase how nice Eddie and Venom are and why we should like them.
I draw the line at fighting dogs, pal.
It's not a bad scene necessarily, but it is a transparent one. Unless you're too young to yet see how movies work. And in this manner, the movie often does things in a way that it doesn't need to, which makes it easy to see through. Upon entering Area 51, we see the army using acid to vaporize whatever hazardous containers. And it's like, wait a minute, why are they using acid? It's never properly established. Surely there must be better ways to deal with dangerous material than by pouring acid on their containers. Oh yeah, it's probably just because the acid becomes relevant later. That literally happened with the person I saw the movie with. She turned to me and said that, oh, the acid probably comes back later. Which, surprise surprise, it does.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, the Vegas sequence is the best example of what I'm getting at. As I mentioned before, Eddie and Venom's goal at this point has been set to be to go to New York. And when they get to Vegas, there's a very obvious thing they should be doing.
I guess it looks like we're stealing cars.
Yeah, they should be finding a mode of transport to continue east. They're already knocking people out and taking their clothes and walking past police, so why not knock out a valet as well and take a car key and carry on? Well, they don't do that. Instead, all other kinds of stuff happens. First, Eddie and Venom go gamble their money in hopes of making more, because it's 2024 and of course there has to be at least a reference to gambling. And once that goes wrong, as gambling tends to do, they then run into the convenience store lady who also happens to be there. And then they go to her room and they... What do you think? The answer is dancing. Venom takes his full form and starts ripping up the dance floor, even though they know it will make the monster find their location. And at this point it's like, okay, I see you. The only reason any of this is happening is because the writer is making it so to progress the story. We can see through the magic. We can see the writer's hand poorly guiding things along. The spell is broken and it feels dumb. Unless, of course, you're like 10. My point is that there's two types of movies. There's the type that pulls you deep into the experience, and then there's the type that's about as deep as the children's end of the pool. And the difference lies in setups and payoffs. Events must be natural enough to not be seen through in the moment, yet clear enough that their importance seems obvious after it's revealed. For example, there's a scene where Eddie and Venom catch a ride with the UFO family and they start singing this space exploration song.
This is Major Tom to ground control.
It's pretty fun because you get to hear Venom sing, as he apparently already knows the song, and even pretty emotional because you get a glimpse of the life that Eddie and Venom could have had. But that's ultimately what it is, a cute little sing-along that the filmmakers put in for this one moment.
Oh, I love a sing-along.
And imagine the difference if it went deeper. For instance, what if in this scene the family starts singing some song about the meaning of understanding another person's pain? Not the best family road trip topic, but the point of this example is that it would be a song that Venom doesn't yet know and in the process learns the lyrics to. And then at the end, it's the lyrics of that song that influence Venom's choice to sacrifice himself for Eddie because he now understands the problems that his existence will always create for Eddie.
I'll never forget you. No. Don't forget me.
It wouldn't be just a fun moment that happens and ends. It would be deeper, deep enough for even adults to dive into and think about after the credits. The third juvenile problem here is that characters are so one-dimensional that it's tough to care about anything that happens around them. As I said last time, the exception is Venom and Eddie. Their relationship is great, and so are they. Venom on the surface is a scary alien parasite, but he has more layers underneath. He's goofy, he's friendly, he misses his pet chickens, he has a shoe fetish.
Best shoes ever!
These two basically carry this franchise on their back. Unfortunately, this movie spends a lot of time on characters who are not Eddie or Venom.
Hi.
Oh, this fucking guy. Just ignore him. Ignore
Characters and beings who are so on the nose that they will make you fall asleep with indifference. There's the commander who hates symbiotes and wants to exterminate them, but with no reason why other than because he's an army commander and that's what they do. They think aliens can't be trusted.
They're not here for a safe haven.
Except of course for the times when he trusts the words of an alien prisoner.
You heard what it said. The Codex only exists if they're both alive.
So he seems less like a person and more like a construct of the plot. There are the symbiotes locked up in a lab, like the one that has taken over the cop from the last movie. But he's basically pointless. All he does is sit in his cell and give out information. Oh wow, imagine being a fan of this character and following his journey. He explains stuff in one room and then dies. Yippee! Same with the other symbiotes. All they want to do is save the world and fight the villain because, I don't know, that's what symbiotes do.
We are not the bad guys.
They used to have individual wills of their own, but now they're benevolent blobs that came to Earth somehow to fight evil because yippee. They have no individual worth and their only purpose is to look cool for a few seconds before they're gone. Which is great if you're 10. There are the scientists who of course try to have an understanding for the symbiotes because they're scientists. but all that separates them is quirks. This scientist has a thing with Christmas, and this scientist has trauma from lightning hitting her and her brother, which she immediately talks about.
My brother's greatest ambition was to work up there at 51 doing what I do. And I wish I could have shown him what we've built down here.
And it feels fake. Why is she openly talking about her trauma here? Does she do it every time she comes to work? I don't buy it, and I don't care. What I'm getting at is that the movie plays with chess pieces that are limited to their labels, which is not enough to make the game interesting. There has to be something beneath the labels to make sense of them, at least with more central characters. For example, it is good that the family is obsessed with UFOs. That's a useful quirk. It's simple for everyone to understand, and it gives the actors something to act with. But the reason it doesn't work quite as well for older audiences is because that's all it is. Like, okay, the whole family breaks into Area 51 to see aliens.
I smell alien.
Why? That's a serious crime. Are you stupid? The action is so needlessly idiotic that it's tough to have sympathy or care about what happens.
Oh my god, bro.
And imagine the difference with layers underneath. Maybe the dad's life was somehow destroyed by what he thinks is aliens, and so he's obsessed to see that aliens are real to make sense of his messed up life. Then it'd be like, okay, I understand the actions enough to care. But without that, all you have is cool noise. The villain wants to destroy the galaxy because, I don't know, he's an evil villain and that's what he wants. The monsters are so generically overpowered that I can't see past their CGI shell. Yeah, they can regenerate and make anti-symbiote sounds and kill everything, and not even gravity can stop them. Yeah, they only act when they see the codex.
Stay very calm. She can't see the thing she's looking for.
Except for sometimes when they also, for example, know to follow military aircraft. Yeah, the villain wants to get free to conquer the galaxy, even though he could easily conquer the galaxy with these aliens alone. There's not enough specificity to make any of this stand out. The CGI surface alone is not enough. Unless, you know. Again, I don't want to take away from anyone's enjoyment of Venom 3, but at the end of the day, if you want to make a movie that adults can enjoy as well, these are things you must get right. Information must be introduced meaningfully, events must be natural, and central characters must have layers under their labels. Without that, your movie might find success with certain audiences, but not much beyond.